What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're a new viewer, please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can make sure you stay up to date with all the videos that I put out. Today I will be talking about one of my favourite TV shows, which I've been doing episodes on already. I'm on season 1 at the moment, so I apologise I haven't been uploading more, especially more of these videos, but I will be making sure I do that more moving forward, so expect more of these videos moving forward. But I will be now continuing with season 1 episode 6 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, where do I start with this video? This episode is different from the other ones, and as we know with season 1, Buffy is all about finding its voice, finding its tone, exploring. A lot of the times we see less vampire stuff, which is fine. It's all about experimenting with this season, as you do with most season 1 shows, but this one we take a step back from Buffy trying to navigate being the Slayer as well as dating, as we saw in previous episodes, and how hard that's been. Now we move forward to more on bullying and basically the fact that Buffy has no friends, and we sort of go outside of the school, and the villains are the students, the bullies of the school, and their meanness gets elevated and heightened when they turn into hyenas. So this episode is very different, but also still focuses on that high school element of whether it's dating, bullies, mean kids, things like that. It's not by far my favourite of the Buffy episodes, but it's still enjoyable. I did enjoy it, and we sort of see Xander in a new light with this episode, which is always good when we get to see our characters different within different episodes. So before we continue and we break down episode 6, grab your snacks, grab your tea, and when we come back we'll be talking about episode 6. We're now on episode 6 of season 1, and usually when we reach sort of the midway point in any season on any TV program, you sort of already have a good indication of what the TV show will be like, and the tone and the characters and the backstories and things like that. Thankfully for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this is not that episode. With season 1, like I said, it's all about experimenting and finding its tone, whereas with other shows you've already established a tone by this point, whereas we haven't with Buffy. And if you love things to do with vampires and you love Buffy, then I'm surprised you still continued watching after this episode, because you probably thought, okay, so where is this show going, if you watch it for the first time. But don't be fooled, this isn't going to set the tone for the rest of the season or the rest of Buffy by any means, and it's just one of those other episodes which is just different, and it's called the Pact. So here's the basis of what the episode is in my little breakdown. It's basically the class goes on a school trip to the zoo, so Buffy's class, and don't get me wrong, the zoo is a great place, but when do kids or teenagers go to the zoo for a school trip? Don't remember going to the zoo, especially as a teenager, for a school trip. But anyway, they go to the zoo, and these group of kids, the bullies or the mean kids, whatever, stumble upon a hyena's lair, or whatever you want to call it, which is clearly labelled do not enter. Basically, it's like forbidden ground, do not go in there, it's dangerous kind of thing. And of course, them being the mean kids, whatever, they don't listen and they just go, and basically their plan is to feed this kid to the hyenas for whatever reason. And Xander obviously sees them and wants to follow them in to save the kid if he can. Obviously he's alone, he doesn't have the Slayer, he doesn't have his Scooby gang, whatever, he just goes and follows them in. And because of the hyena's curse that have been sent from Africa, we find out that the bullies, along with Xander, all mysteriously take this energy from the hyenas, and although they're still human, they get possessed by these hyenas and have their characteristics, which obviously is not good, because their hyenas are quite dangerous. They prey, they stay in a pact, and they are obviously locked away for a reason, and the fact that now these kids who are bullies anyway get possessed by these hyenas and get their strength is not good, and especially Xander as well, who is typically a nice, lovable guy, but is now going to be horrible even to his friends. But the fact that they even were able to go into the hyena house, like with a sign saying no admittance, where's the security? Where's the security cameras? Like, surely if you don't want kids going in there, you would at least block it off a little bit better than you did. Like, am I wrong? Of course, because this is the 90s, what better way to let your audience know that the characters are possessed or there's something wrong with them than giving them yellow eyes or red eyes or whatever. But in this episode it's yellow eyes. That's always a dead giveaway for something's happened or the character's evil or possessed or whatever. But you got to love the 90s, as I always say with the show. And right away we see that there's something wrong with Xander. As we know, he is the lovable guy, he's always a nice guy, but now all of a sudden he has his confidence, he's dressing different, he's acting different, he's blowing off his friends, he's being mean, he's acting like this tough guy with these bullies. And we know something's up because this is completely out of Xander's character. One thing that gives it away is he's not cracking these awkward, silly jokes and being awkward in front of his friends and stumbling and being annoying and all over Buffy. He's now this cool, suave, mysterious guy that you don't know what he's thinking or what he's going to say, and he just doesn't look like Xander. Not much has changed with Xander in terms of his appearance other than the way he's dressed and the way he styled his hair and this confidence he has. So it makes you think, if Xander, without being possessed by hyenas, had this confidence in himself, would he be this handsome, popular guy that all the girls want, as they do when he's a hyena? Because really the only thing that's changed is this confidence, is this suave character that he doesn't usually have, and all of a sudden it makes him handsome and cool. So really Xander could do it, but you know, Xander's Xander, so that'll never change. But we do know that with previous episodes that Willow is completely enamoured by Xander. She's always liked Xander, but she doesn't feel that he likes her back or that they can cross this friendship that they have. So basically she knows everything about Xander, every detail about his personality, what he likes, what he doesn't like, his blood pressure, and she basically just splurts that out in front of everyone at the gym. So that kind of embarrasses Xander. As we know, Buffy and Willow are quite concerned about Xander, the way he's been acting, and his new friends that he's made, always hanging out with them, and he's not like that. He's always usually with Buffy, with Willow, and following them around basically, but now he's got his own friends and he's acting different and it's not like his character. So obviously this leads them to worry, but this is Buffy, so sooner or later they kind of figure out, okay, it might not be just Xander being this new guy that he is, maybe there's actually something going on. But what's even more disturbing is the way these new hyena possessed kids are eating the hot dogs off everyone's plates in the cafeteria at lunch. And then the fact that they steal the pig, the mascot, to, I guess, eat him is just so disturbing, and it's something we did not need to know or see. But obviously, you know, they're possessed by hyenas, so they're gonna not care what they eat, and they're preying on their food and trying to catch their food, and they're not obviously human. Honestly, we get it. We know the kids are possessed by these hyenas. You don't need to keep showing us in every clip that they are, with every little thing, with every little detail. We get it. We know they're possessed already, so that's one thing that they keep sort of pushing it on you, that this is them, these are the hyenas. It's like, we know, we get it, we understand. When we watch The Lion King, that did not prepare us for the way hyenas really are when we watch Buffy, because the way Xander is just not cool. Like, the way he is, we know hyenas in general are not nice animals, but we were not prepared for some of the stuff that these kids are doing, and the way that Xander is behaving. Treats Willow like trash. He basically tells her, like, I know you have a crush on me, I know you like me, but I don't care, you're not good enough for me, kind of thing. And it makes you feel bad for Willow, because we know that she has a huge crush on Xander, and the fact that he's treating her like this is obviously heartbreaking for her, because she doesn't understand at this point that he's not himself. So she believes that everything he says is true, and that she's not good enough for him, when we know that really she is. It's just he's not himself. He does her best to wipe away Willow's tears and comfort her and basically make her feel good about herself, because Xander's just destroyed all her hopes and dreams of love with him, and made it seem that she'll never have a chance with him, even as a friendship. It's not the end of Xander being this way. He now moves on to Buffy, and he tries to basically force himself on her, because he has all this confidence now. So whereas before he would sort of follow her around and make her seem like he likes her, but not really have this confidence to ask her out, now he's basically got all this confidence, and he thinks that by him forcing himself on her, that she will just be like, take me, I want you now, which is obviously not true. And I think this point Buffy starts to realise more and more that there's something wrong with Xander, because usually he wouldn't do this. He wouldn't blow off Willow like that, he wouldn't be mean to Willow, and he wouldn't just force himself onto someone, which, if we know in this age, is definitely not right. You can't just force yourself onto someone, whether you're friends or not. Xander is basically busy ruining his relationships and friendships with Buffy and Willow. We cut to the other bullies who are eating the principal. Yes, if it couldn't get more disgusting, the hyenas, or the bullies, are now eating their principal. Luckily we don't see too much of that, but you can just picture in your head, because they're obviously animals now and they're just going at him, and obviously he can't defend himself because it's just one person against these hyenas. Basically, I feel bad for the principal. He basically gives our heroine Buffy the chance at new school. He gives her a chance, he accepts her when other people didn't accept her, and now he's basically just been eaten by a pack of hyenas for no reason other than the fact that they can. But what is predictable, and what you probably would have guessed, is the zookeeper is the bad guy. Yes, he's the one that uses the hyenas to take control of these kids' bodies, basically. Whether you knew it or not, he kind of looked like he was up to something and that he wasn't a good guy. So yeah, he basically uses these hyenas to possess these kids, and that's why they were able to get into the hyena's house, and nobody stopped him, because that was his plan all along. And then we see everyone go back to the zoo, to the hyena house, and try and reverse whatever's happened, and try and get the kids back into their normal bodies and the hyenas back into theirs. And what happens is the hyenas eat the zookeeper. So the person that was in charge of him, that was looking after him, that used them, has now basically been eaten by his own hyenas. And don't know why he had to paint his face. Like, what was the whole point of that? Like, is it part of this ritual that he was doing? I don't know. But of course we knew that our characters would figure it out, because they overplayed the fact that Xander had all this confidence now and that he was mean. And yeah, they figured out that the zookeeper was a bad guy, and they reversed whatever he did at the zoo, obviously at the place where it all happened. But we don't really talk about the fact that although Xander pretends that he doesn't remember anything that happened whilst he was a hyena, which for obvious reasons, because he was horrible to Willow, he forced himself onto Buffy, so he doesn't want them to know that he remembered, whereas we find out that he does remember, which means that the bullies also remember what they did when they were hyenas. And you kind of have to think, like, wouldn't they have PTSD, the fact that they ate their principal and the pig? Like, that must stick with them, the fact that they ate their principal. They ate a human being. I know it wasn't them doing it, but they still probably had the memories of them doing it because they were still in their bodies. It's just they were possessed. So the fact that they did that and now not going to mention it ever again, it's kind of like gross. But also they are bullies and they're not nice people, so maybe they just don't care. Like, I don't know. That's why I think Xander wasn't put in that position and he wasn't part of that scene, because if Xander did something like that, that would stay with him because he's a nice guy, and they didn't want to do that, I think, because then it would have been brought up again maybe and it would have changed the way he is probably. But with the bullies, we don't care. It's like throwaway characters. The episode's done, so it doesn't really matter. But just a thought. I don't know if you guys thought about that, like sort of the fact that they still had their memories of what happened, and if they still thought about it, but wouldn't you? But what brings me to the end of this video is just a point of this very weird episode, is the fact that they just kind of all laugh it off, like Xander was a hyena, ha ha ha, he did things, let's now go get coffee and just forget everything that basically happened. And that's kind of how it works with this episode, which is weird, because like I said, some of the stuff that these kids did was not right and most people would be very disgusted by it, but they just seem to be like, whatever, it's done, you were a hyena, ha ha ha, you were, you know, not yourself kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's more so on the fact that he tried it on with Buffy and it was kind of like, okay, now we know what you actually really think, but you would act upon these things, but only when you were a hyena. So yeah, very weird, but I mean, overall it was a fun episode. It was a fun watch. There was a lot going on. It kind of took us away again from vampires, but also kind of had that same feel as the Mantis episode with the teacher that I talked about already, where it was a teacher, I guess, that was a mantis, but now it's these kids that are possessed by hyenas. So it was completely different to what we kind of were expecting from Buffy, but as we move along we'll get back to more of what we know and love from Buffy and stick to more of a tone rather than these kind of episodes. But one thing I want to point out is I wish this episode did feature Cordelia, because I feel like she would have pointed out Xander's like meanness a little bit sooner, and she would have put him in his place, I think, because we know that she can be kind of mean and stuff like that, and she has this like banter with Xander. So I think if he was horrible to Willow and tried it on with Buffy and things like that, she would have pointed it out. And especially after they reversed the spell, it wouldn't just go left alone like, okay, what's happened is happened, now we never talk about it. She would have, I think, mentioned it a bit more and like brought up the fact that there is this awkwardness, like you were horrible to your friends, you did things that were unexpected, and that's kind of what I wish they would have included a bit more, the actions of what he did, and now that he's having to deal with those actions, because we do know that he remembers. But whatever, doesn't matter. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Did you like it? Do you like these kind of episodes? Because I know a lot of you didn't like Teacher's Pet, for example, because it was similar to this kind of episode, and I know this is definitely not on there in terms of any of Buffy's greatest episodes. So let me know what you guys thought, and where are you in terms of watching Buffy now? Like, what episode are you on? What season? Are you enjoying it if this is your first time watching it? Because I know I love Buffy and I love doing these videos, so stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys in my next video.